Hey everybody, I'm Minister Jessica. On today, our special guest joining us is Dr. T. How you doing, Dr. T?
Good to be here, Minister Jessica.
I'm so happy that you accepted the invitation. So on today, I think we need to have a conversation about the importance of, dealing with the us. And you know what I mean by that, like those things that could hinder us in our purpose and stuff. So I think that's a good conversation for us to impede on. And I feel like just from what I can see and what I've experienced from you, that you probably had to deal with those things in order to walk in God-given purpose.
Yes. It's not easy. Life is just not easy. But when we talk about walking in the purpose of God, I think of the word purpose. And, when we think about the word purpose, it really deals with the goals that you set, values, just intentions that go beyond yourself.
Okay.
And so when there's a purpose over your life, you've got to be more intentional. And so as I'm growing and maturing, I'm learning that, it's the purposes that we have. It's good to have goals, but if they're not in alignment with what God has purposed you to be, then you're jacked up. And so I really believe that a lot of times people don't walk in purpose, or people always ask the question, what am I here for? What am I created for? You know? And so and as Rick Warren said, he said, there's a book called What on Earth Am I Here For? And so a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, what is their purpose? And they don't really know themselves. And so a lot of times we're looking outside when really it's on the inside. And so I've just learned that I believe the first order in getting us together is to really occupy the mind of Christ. Because then when we seek his ways and walk in his will, then we're able to just really please him, because that's what the purpose. We're created for him. And so being created in his image, we were created to please him, and we're created to love others. And so while we have our plans in mind, God has a greater purpose. And I think we just have to begin to deal with us. And then when we release ourselves from all the stuff that's hindering us, right? Our plans, right? Our ways, our foolish things, or our logic, right? That's me, I'm a thinker. Our logic, it's got to make sense. Make it make sense, Jesus, right? And so I believe a lot of times when we really finally just trust that God, okay, I'm surrendering my plans to you. I'm surrendering every single thing, even my emotions about it. Because sometimes everything he tells you to do doesn't mean you feel good about it.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point right there. Not because when I would say in my younger years, right, when my immature state, I would think that the feeling of it, right, what you just said, would have to correlate with the purpose. Like, this is not feeling good. So is this purpose?
Yes.
But I'm finding that even with discovering who God was molding me to be, if you will, because let's be, our environment kind of shapes that us in us, right?
Absolutely.
And it kind of, at times, depending on the degree and the stuff that we go through, it can impede on God's purpose for us if we don't utilize those things in the right way.
Right.
So I'm gonna just a little snippet. Growing up, I kind of was subconscious in a way during them times, but not realizing those very things that I was subconscious about was the things that God was trying to use in me. So can you recall a time in your life like that?
Oh my God. And so a lot of times we don't realize that God can even purpose suffering. We don't realize that. And he can even purpose it. So I can even think back recently, just being displaced, right? 2 years ago, just being displaced and going through some health challenges recently. But I realized it's an alignment. So it put me back into a place of rhythm where I had to really pay attention to how I take care of me, but also begin to know that it's pivoting me into a different direction to be able to help others, to really take in consideration, like, okay, that this was for his purpose, to begin to teach others about our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and truly in reference to systems. So I could truly say that it didn't feel good. This process was not easy. It was extremely uncomfortable. It hurt. There were times when I actually thought it was downright unfair. And not because I'm so wonderful, but because I carry God's heart. And so I recognized when I got over myself and out of my feelings
Yeah.
that he truly is now pivoting me in a totally different direction outside of what I thought ministry was.
Yeah. Getting over ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to brush past that because that's kind of line with what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's the getting over sometimes because I know
Yeah.
my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
My feelings used to hinder me from the very thing that God was placing in my life, but my feelings got in the way.
Yes.
So that is something that, because I call this a journey. Because, because even as we're walking out our purpose and it's almost like getting to this chapter, I almost find like it's almost like always a digging up, if you will. It may not be to the degree of which, but it's like in this season, I'm finding this out about myself.
Yeah. He's pulling up, he's pulling up all the dead weeds. He's pulling up all the filthy stuff. He's even uncovering stuff that we didn't even know was there.
Oh,
And it's through our emotions that it actually becomes a lens of what we're supposed to be dealing with. Because when I actually now, like as I'm growing and maturing, and I'm not having like the hissy fit or the tantrum, and I'm just like, okay, Therese, what's happening? What's showing up here? Or why did you react like that? Or why are you so angry? Like really what it is. Because a lot of times the surface emotion is truly not the real emotion.
Yeah.
It's truly causing us to go deeper to really unveil, okay, why are you tripping? And, and it really brings us to a better place. And so when we really get to a point where we just truly get over ourselves or realize that, okay, you have to suffer and it's for a greater purpose and it really is not about you. Yeah. Because anything and everything that we do in God has a greater purpose that truly doesn't even involve us. So when we recognize that God has allowed us to have life, breath, strength, he's allowed us to have giftings, he's allowed us to have this oil, he's allowed us to walk in all these things, and we realize that it's for a bigger purpose to make our mark on the world, but also to glorify him and make an impact on other people's lives, it gets a whole lot easier. Not saying it's easier completely.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
A whole lot easier.
It lifts some of the weight off of how it feels when you're carrying that.
And especially when you feel like you're doing it alone, when you feel like you're doing it alone, and that's what causes us to kind of stay into ourselves and our bubbles. But we have to be able to ask for wise counsel too while we're getting over ourselves so we can walk in the fulfillment of his purpose. Yes,
and that's another point of like, because for me, I utilize the getting over myself, I utilize counseling.
Yes.
And I come from a background that's not common. So I had to, if I allow my mind to stay in that conditioned state because that's not normal, right? I feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at. I'm gonna just say it like that. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Me and you possibly wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right, ditto. Yeah.
Because, but those were tools too. So I think it's important while we walk, like seeking God for that purpose. Absolutely. And that's another thing. I don't know about you, but it's something about, like, you have to have a peace, even though he may let us know on our purpose, right? Yeah. But he may not let us know at times all of our purpose. And I feel like it's probably good for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
Because we would probably in some form or fashion get in the way of that.
It's true, because God is not going to reveal the whole piece, because if he did, we would probably not walk into it. Because then he would have to reveal all the pieces of the puzzle of all that's going to take place and all you got to go through to get through.
Yeah.
And so, but you said a really important piece that I think is important to let people know. So if there's someone out there that's really trying to figure out their purpose, if there's someone really trying to figure out how to really get over themselves and really see, so what am I here for? Sometimes it truly can be, what is that last thing or that greatest thing that you fought through? Whether it's your child becoming autistic, or whether it's a health challenge, or whether it's a cancer diagnosis, or whether it's like, a legacy of your family that you're just truly walking in the steps of your parents, but you're doing it a whole new way. That can be your purpose, but just make sure that it aligns with God, because that can be his plan. Where we pivot and get off track is when we try to do it our way.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
When we try to do it our way and try to fix it. So for me, I'm just like recently, I'm just like, okay, well, you told me to finish the book. You told me to do some things, but then I want to do it my way. Well, let me do it this way so I can be stable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can financially say, let me do this. Let me get it extra. And he's like, I didn't tell you to do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's just like, he's like, you got to trust. And that's really what purpose is, in getting over ourselves We have to trust him and not our own understanding, not our own plans on how it's going to work out. It doesn't mean we don't have responsibility to etch out some stuff, write the vision, make it plain. However, we get in the way trying to figure out, well, this is the vision, so I got to figure out the whole plan. And then what happens, my emotions get in the way, and then I don't move.
Yeah. And I find that naturally, I feel like I'm a seer, right? And I find that spiritually, sometimes that's gotten me in trouble because I am a seer and the Lord has not yet revealed it to me. In my mind, here I go in my flesh, visioning like, well, it got to be this way, right? I need to have A, B, and C in order to get the D when really, and that's depending on where you are, and it's not like a one-time thing because I found that I've had faith in the situation, right? And I'm like, I know I possess faith, right? And then here goes God. He presents something before me. Now I need to come up in my faith. And I'm finding that is a ever going on process, if you will. Like it's an increasing of my faith because I trusted him to do that, right? But now when I'm faced before, I need to have a coming up of my faith, right? To walk in this purpose. Because
and it's he's calling us for a deeper level of faith more than ever in this hour. I mean, the faith has to be so deep that you would, like a submarine, submerge in the ocean, and that's where you find the octopus. You got to go down. The octopus are not all the way up. Mermaids and all that. You got to go deep, and so God is truly causing us to go deep within ourselves, so that we can trust him and surrender to that faith. Because really, the more we go into deeper faith, it's going to really retract how much we love God or not, how much we really, really understand his ways, how we truly understand that he's for us, And so it's just really going to require a deeper level of faith to trust that, okay, this vision will come to pass. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know, and we just have to believe that because we want it our way, our time.
Yes.
I'm just being honest about me, and especially if you have waited long. So there's a difference. If you waited your turn and you waited your time. So that's a difference. If you just starting off, okay, wait, continue your process. But for those who have waited their turn, they've waited their time, they've been on the sideline, they supported others, and now they know it's their turn, but you're still not moving. It's like, okay, you still got to trust God that the vision he gave you, or single thing you've gone through or grown through will not be wasted.
Yeah, and that is in his time. And that's what I'm finding too, that is I'm having to find a type of peace in if he never lets me know, kind of thing. Do you know what kind of like digging in that you have to be?
Yes.
If he never lets me know, I'm still going to walk.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, early on, no, I was not like, I'm not gonna. That was not something. Come on,
because your life takes a completely left turn. Some of you may be like, "Oh, I'm just content being a wife and having kids and being a housewife or whatever. I'm just content with my job because it's stable, or whatever." But what if God said, "I tell you to let go of that job today"? What if He said, "I need you to give it all away for my glory, for my purpose, that you are willing to surrender it all for me"? How many people are willing to do that? And so I believe you're in the right posture to stay in that place, that even if you don't tell me, and that's where I reside, because you've had to, you give it all up. And
because it brings back to, if you're in the wait, like you would have to remind yourself of that, because your eyes is telling you everything opposite.
Yeah.
Everything that you're seeing is opposite.
Yes. And you will go through warfare. There will be warfare because you got to fight. You have to fight for, the vision. But I want to encourage everyone that a lot of times that we think that we're fighting in warfare, when perhaps it's truly you're just fighting through transition.
Oh.
And the issue is transition causes you to trust. And in trust, there's transformation, and transformation is going to cause a whole lot of twists and turning. It's going to have you in a rubber band. It's going to have you in a pickle. It's going to twist and turn. It's going to cause so many things that are so uncomfortable. But when you begin to just be like, okay, I got to become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Then okay, so God, I'm still in the vein.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes I've heard that when it becomes comfortable, then you should be worried. I've heard that from some really great preachers.
Yeah.
And at the time, in my immaturity, I was like, man, you crazy. You know,
Yeah.
you are nuts.
Yeah.
But I recognize true as I'm growing and I'm paying attention spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially, in every area of my life, that God is truly just really just preparing. He's just preparing and pruning, and it really will make sense later. Right now, it's not supposed to.
But I want to, you said something about transition, and that really struck a chord with me, because I'm going to say about 2 years ago, I was in a type of transition.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I found about transition is because you're in a place, you're not where you were, but you're not where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfamiliar. It's unknown. You haven't been here and you don't have a reference for it. And sometimes it's almost like you're feeling, watch what I'm saying, feeling like you're in between a place. Because you're going, like I said, from where you were to where you're going. And you're discovering things about if your eyes are wide open. You're discovering things about yourself. There's things that you're leaving behind. There's things that you're picking up. Man, transition has been an interesting thing. Because you can grow into something, but you also, it's almost like getting say you have a job, right? And you've been on that job. But now you're getting a higher position, right? You have to transition from employee to manager. The mindset becomes different, right?
Absolutely.
Ah, Jesus, that thing was like, it's a different mind.
And it's challenging because it comes with a cost. Okay, so either one. It comes with a cost. Yes, there is promotion, but you also have to leave some people behind. So you got to leave, whether they were friends or enemies, whichever one. It's a cost in that. And so that's the emotional side of us that can hinder our progress in transition, because we are so in our feelings of what we got comfortable with, who we were comfortable with, and just really that it took you so long to get to that place. So now it's like, I got to go to another place. So sometimes God will have you in the middle. In the middle of right before your crossover. And so I had to catch myself about to speak in tongues. The podcast. But, in the crossover, so we gotta just keep just saying, okay, I'm gonna get to the other side. Because sometimes you be like, why am I stuck in this place? And you feel like you're stuck, but really it's just, you just really gotta pass through it. Because if you never pass through it, you might have to start all over. And I've been there before, where you have to start all over because you did not complete the process, because the enemy comes in like a flood, right? And he wants to kill, steal, and destroy. And what happens is he'll wear you out so much with your emotions of what's happening in the happening, and you forget what God is going to do in the happening. And so we got to get to the crossover and just really just say, okay, God, prepare my mind, my spirit, and I surrender my will and my emotions, because it may not ever make sense, but I know that I'm going to get to the other side.
And the other thing, the last thing that I wanted to, before we move on about the transition is sometimes in that transition, it can feel like you're in the midst of a storm. But what I'm finding is it's easier to go through the storm than bump up against the storm. Because my God, how that can compound already a difficult situation or a difficult time. Just picture, like how you just said about how you were displaced and all of that. Wonder if you had got stuck in woe me. Wonder if you had got stuck in a mindset of it was always going to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's bumping up against the storm instead of saying, okay, God, what is there to be done out of this? Because I know there's I'm at a point where I'm always feeling like I want to give God the glory out of it. I don't even care if the enemy designed it for him. God gonna get the glory out of it.
And also the pain and the problem can also be a test. Because God, I also know too very well, to be confident in my walk in Christ. I know very well when he told me he said, surrender your home. He said, you're about to go through a process. I didn't know what the process looked like. I didn't even imagine some stuff that took place after I surrendered that. But I also do know this, that when God has positioned us to grow in him and to grow in our calling, we have to all pass that test that Abraham said, that if I have to surrender my child or I have to leave it all, that I will leave it all. And that's one test I can say. Many I haven't gotten right, but that's one of them that I'm willing. I'll forsake my family. I will forsake a home. I will forsake a vehicle. I'll forsake it all for his glory, just so he can get the glory. And I have to be mindful of that, because the flesh and my emotions and who I am, or what people say about me, right, or do, it can prevent you, because it will look very humiliating. It will look disgraceful.
Yes.
It will create shame unnecessarily.
Yeah.
But truly, it's for God's glory. That God says, Jessica, I'm using you just to be a mark of faith for people, to show people how to live by faith.
Yeah.
And so if you don't pass that test, now you're still in the process of being processed. Yeah. Because you haven't fulfilled the purpose in that season, in this chapter, so that you can move to the final place that he wants you to be in.
Yeah. And I think that's something too, that because I don't think many times we don't think about it as fulfilling the purpose in that season. Yeah. Because for me, I've been guilty of thinking the long haul purpose instead of focusing on the purpose in the now.
In that moment, yes. Yeah. And so I just want to encourage all of us, and even myself, I have to constantly remind, we don't have to have every T dotted, every I before we start or move, because then we'll never move. And then you become, as I say, analysis paralysis, because you're so busy overthinking. And I'm a planner. I am a planner. I have a spirit of excellence / overcoming perfectionism. Okay. So I want to plan, but I'm learning in this season, especially like that, I have to truly just go with the flow, Like I even have to submit my emotions. Like I don't even have time to grieve it. I don't even have time to deal with it. I just have to really keep it moving, because if I even give it a thought, doesn't mean I don't want to deal with it. There's times in life I dealt so much that I stayed there. This is the season God is calling each of us. You can't even pay attention to that. You pray, or you need to repent, or whatever you got to do, but then keep it moving. You got to keep it moving. Submit your emotions to God and say, God, you deal with it. These are my emotions, and be real with him, because he can handle your emotions. And a lot of times we were taught in Christianity, a lot of stuff that just doesn't serve us. And we really can ask God questions. We really can talk to him. We really can give him our good, bad, indifferent. We can give him our poo-poo as well. And he can handle it, because honestly, I really believe God is like, that's what I was waiting for. Now you can move forward. Now you can move forward. Now you can get to the next place, because you finally surrendered, and you stayed here long enough because you were grieving over yesterday. Like how long will you mourn over Saul? How will you mourn? Like how long will you mourn? So we just have to just remember Proverbs 19 and 21, that a man has his plans, but the Lord's plans will prevail. And so when we just remember that, hey, God, whatever your will is, I'll be satisfied. Whether it means leaving that job, whether it means leaving the country, whether it means pivoting in a whole different career or in a whole different way of ministry, we're thinking it's just pulpit or this, and God is saying your job is mobile, and you got to be willing to do it, even if it's afraid. Even if you're afraid. We say it a lot, and I used to hear Joyce Meyer. That was the first time years ago I heard it. Do it afraid, but they don't tell you that you really feel afraid.
Yes, and while doing it,
you got to do it.
I wanted to get to that one, but real quick, because you said something about, like, you were just talking about it, but it's important, though, outside noise. While you working on yourself. Because, listen, people will not understand when God is doing something on the inside of you. And if you bank too much on what they're saying, have you found that could be a problem? Oh,
I've learned it the hard way. Oh, God, I've learned it the hard way. And I realized, and I just said this today with someone, a sister in Christ, because there is a season to really in maturity to seek wise counsel. There really is. There truly is. There's the difference. But I also know there are many decisions in your walk with God that is just between you and God. And you have to trust the knower in you. You really got to trust the knower, because what I've made the mistake is I've asked for counsel, I've asked advice, or I've asked just suggestions, and then their opinion or their thoughts of me or what they think when they don't know the totality of what God is saying or doing, they put that on you. And then what happens is, if you're not secure or strong in what God told you, you hold their authority, you know, if they have authority or weight in your life. And that's true if they mean something and matter, but then their voice overshadows God.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself moving in a totally different direction that God told you to do because you were listening to what authority or people, other voices said. And so it's great to have wise counsel, especially with major decisions in your life. I'm learning I can't do it by myself anymore. I recognize that. But I also recognize I still must stay true to the voice of God and to allow the knower in me to trust that he told me. And if it never makes sense to nobody else, even the people you trust and know, that you have to trust him, because it will cause you to go off track. And now you have to start all over a journey that you should have been far further. And that type of agony, I just implore anyone watching this, please follow God, because that level of pain is not something I wish on anyone, to watch many people walk in a place that you know that you should have been in. But the good news is that all things work together for his glory if you're called to his purpose. And the good news is, what I'm holding to in this season is that God has a perfect timing and a perfect plan. And there's a set time, and this is your time. And so now is the time to move. So all the stuff that you had to go through was just the process of promotion.
Yeah. And that's a transition. All the things that we talked about, the outside noise, these are all intricate parts in delving in and diving into our purpose. And dealing with, and it's like peeling back the layers. Almost think about it as an onion, if you will. Like, I got this one. And I don't know about y'all if you ever had like a juicy onion. Sometimes you're going to cry. Your eyes water and it's going, you know what I mean? But
we have to cry. I'm learning this season, like, too, like, just cry, keep going. I'm learning that, and a lot of times we just like, well, let me get my emotions together, let me stuff it up. But I'm learning whether you got to kick, scream, still keep plowing the ground, because there is a harvest that is waiting for you. And one thing I recognize too, we can't afford to abort. We can't afford to be stagnant. We can't afford to stop, because there are people waiting for us. And the truth be told, there are people that have been waiting. And we never consider ourselves so big, but we have to, because if we're co-heirs and we're created by Christ, right? We're sonships. We have the same power and authority that God has.
And I think about us as connectors, if you will.
Yes.
Like, it may on a grand scale, you may think it's like this, but we're all intricate pieces.
Bigger.
If we allow ourselves to be.
Yes.
Because it's one of those things we have to allow ourselves to be whatever that is.
Yeah, you have to allow it. Yes. Because God is a gentleman. He's not going to force it.
Yeah.
And, he's not going to force it. So we have to really make those decisions and really just trust God in the process, that his plan for our life and his purpose will prevail when we get over ourselves and surrender everything to him.
Yeah. No, it was good on talking to you on today.
Yes,
I appreciate you accepting the invitation.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, I pray that people or someone, if it's just one person, glean something from this conversation.
Yes.
Don't find where you at right now as a small thing. Know that God is purposing your current season for something.
Yes.
Know that you digging deeper into who you are can push you in the right direction.
Yes.
Don't give up on today. Whatever you thought was weighing you down, allow God to use it. Allow it to move you to your next. Yes. So whoever it is, I pray that this conversation has helped you. And once again, Dr. Therese, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Everybody have a great day.